everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the Who's Left Podcast, a show about Indiana politics, history, and culture from an unapologetically leftist perspective. My name is Scott Aaron Rogers. I'm broadcasting from Bloomington. So, on tonight's special Monday edition, a conversation we had originally scheduled for a couple weeks ago. We had a monkey wrench thrown in our plans then, but now, as promised, I've got former Republican Indianapolis Mayor Greg Ballard waiting in the wings. I've got a lot of questions for him, so I will spare you the long intro. But real quick, if you care about independent progressive media, we could use your help. We don't paywall content. We don't charge candidates for interviews. We certainly don't have billionaire benefactors. We refuse to hide important information behind paywalls in the middle of a political crisis, even to our financial detriment. So please, if you find value in this work, go to progressiveindiana.net and subscribe at the paid level. It's only $5 a month or $50 a year to help us build the infrastructure that will pop the right-wing media bubble in this state. And while a paid subscription is the best way to help us grow and sustain this project, you can help in other ways by liking and sharing on social media, commenting, leaving reviews, providing feedback, and forwarding our content to your people. Get us when you can. Mostly, we just want you here in this community of Hoosiers dedicated to making this state and its government work for all of us, not just the elite few. Please join us. Follow me on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads at whosleft.us and on Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at Who's Left. Progressive Indiana Network's handle is the full spelled out name on most sites, but on Blue Sky and TikTok, it is PIN Indiana. Please help us grow with a follow wherever you're at. Tell the others. Let's build a radically democratic Indiana together. Now, without further ado, our guest this evening, former Indianapolis Mayor Greg Ballard. Mr. Mayor, welcome.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it very much having me tonight.
I really appreciate you being here. It is an honor to have you. And let us go ahead and begin. So, for the folks that maybe don't know you, we have viewers in northern Indiana and southern Indiana that might not necessarily pay attention to Indianapolis politics. And for the kids out there that don't necessarily remember your term, introduce yourself.
Okay, that's a great way of putting it. Greg Ballard. I grew up in Indianapolis, on the north. For those who know Indianapolis, the near northeast side, 30th and Emerson area, Martindale, Brightwood, that sort of area that I grew up in. Went to Catholic schools primarily when I was growing up. My dad, who worked on the lower end of Eli Lilly for a long time, was crippled in his early to mid 30s with severe rheumatoid arthritis that they didn't know what to do with back then that they do now. So he had a very difficult life until he died in his early 70s. But he worked three jobs to put our family through schooling, and so we were lucky in that direction. In that way, it was kind of funny. The way he did this was he used to play fast pitch softball at Englehart Stadium. That may mean nothing to the people that are listening here, his friends told him primarily send your kids to these schools. So he did. He worked as a bartender and things outside of Lilly to help get us through schools, and went to IU eventually, and spent way much more time down there than I was supposed to, but it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. Rode a little 500 a couple of years, and had I wasn't a bad kid. I didn't get in trouble, but I wasn't exactly structured or motivated in any way. Again, nothing bad happened to me. I didn't do anything bad to anybody else either, but I just I kind of took my time to get through there. And once I did that, I left at the age of when I graduated. At the age of 23, I joined the Marine Corps and was active duty Marines for 23 years. Time in Desert Storm. Met my wife, Winnie, a naturalized citizen from the Philippines. I met her out in California. We've been married 43 years now, so that's kind of worked. That's been okay.
Hey, and congratulations.
And then came back home. I retired out of my last duty station in the Marines was actually Stuttgart, Germany, and I'm very fortunate because very few Marines get to Europe. I was able to get to Europe, working on the plans for the European Command, which is the highest level of U.S. military in Europe, and good duty station for my kids who were 11 and 12 when we went there, 14 and 15 when they came home, and 6 years after I got out in 2001, I'm elected the mayor of Indianapolis, and the rest is kind of history. So spent 8 years as the Republican mayor in a Democratic city. Did pretty well there. Had popularity ratings in the 70s when I left, but I decided to move on at that point in time, and been working nonprofits, been writing books. I got 3 books out, and been doing things like that since I got out. And then this came along, which I assume you're going to want to talk about quite a bit. So
I am going to want to talk about that quite a bit, and so let's talk about how this is going to work tonight. I am a Democrat. I am a progressive Democrat. Why am I talking to the former Republican mayor of Indianapolis here? It is a shock to no one that
because
I
I
am
said
not.
yes. Because I said yes.
It's harder to get to yes than you'd think for Secretary of State candidates around here.
Yeah.
But it is a shock to no one that I am not super trusting of my party's candidate for this race. And the other folks in my party will tell me to eat my vegetables, and I might not like it, but that's what I got to do. I'm still not convinced that those vegetables aren't Taco Bell lettuce. So I want to talk to everybody and figure out, hey, could the former mayor here be a potential Band-Aid for a couple years until us Democrats can try again? Listen, I know it's not exactly a ringing endorsement, but these times make strange bedfellows. So here we are. I guess tell me, first of all, about your Republican values. Why were you a Republican, and why are you no longer a Republican?
Well, I think this applies to both parties. Frankly, they used to have principles. They do have platforms, but nobody follows them. So I think everybody knows that, and so I'm a big believer in individual liberty. I believe in less government. I believe in the free market. I believe in these things that used to actually matter, but frankly, nobody in government seems to do anymore. So I kind of believe in those things. That's why I did what I did. But I lived around the world when I was in the Marine Corps. Been around a couple times actually. Was in the Gulf War, like I say, back in 1991. I understand what tragedy looks like. I understand sadness. I understand all of those things. I understand how people live. I understand how I grew up. I understand how when I became the mayor, obviously, I saw much more of that, and I understood it. So I think I have a pretty good record in that regard. But I I just don't like where the parties are right now. I don't like, to be frank, really, I don't like the purity tests. I don't like the extreme ideology that I think both parties are kind of exhibiting. They've gone too far and they've lost the average person. You probably heard me say this if you're following anything. That 41% of people in Indiana consider themselves independent. And I was at a conference in West Virginia this weekend where I found out that nationally that number is actually higher. And
Oh, wow.
I think it's about 46 nationally that consider themselves independent. So it's interesting that the break, and when people say we're split 50-50, yeah, we are. But the 50-50 is not Democrats and Republicans. The 50-50 is 50 are affiliated with the two parties and 50 are independent. That's the split in the country right now. And neither party seems to understand that, because both of them, I think, have done a really masterful job of closing up voting access to almost everybody, certainly here in the state of Indiana. And they don't want anybody to intrude on their land, on their power. And they don't want that to happen. And so both parties are kind of upset with me here in the state of Indiana, because I actually broke through broke through the very purposeful, punitive obstacles put in my way. And so that's kind of how I see this. I think both parties have kind of lost their way. I don't think they represent the average person at all. And so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm certainly not doing this for myself. Anybody who knows me knows what I mean by that. And I think the average person is not represented anymore. I just don't. And uh, numbers were presented to me in the past, recently in the last year, I'd say, because what I'm doing right now is not me. I didn't start this. I'm certainly going to try to finish this particular piece of it. But the Independent Indiana has been going on for almost 2 years now before they even brought me in to talk about these things. And they were doing lots of data searching, and they were doing lots of polling and things like that to try to figure out, can this work? What's the most important problem that we have? Which I'll tell you here in a second. The why are people so upset with both parties? And would an independent have any particular chance to win this race? Because this race is the important one. I assume you know this is the one that goes with ballot access
Yes.
and everything. So, is there a chance to do it? And this was a particular sort of circumstances in this year, and and so they talked to me about it. I was actually down at IU, and I think I finally crystallized for me. I was talking to students about my most recent book, and I was telling them that if you want to get in the game, then you got to run for office, or you got to work for somebody running for office. You got to, if you want anything to change, you got to get in there. And then I realized, I'm still healthy. I'm in good shape, and good people are opting out. Both parties, good people are saying, I've had enough. The toxicity is too much. The heat's too much. I don't need to live my life like this. I'm going to go play with my kids or grandkids. And I frankly, I had the opposite view, which is I'm opting in. Well, these good people are opting out, and I understand how they feel completely. It doesn't bother me necessarily, but I said, I think I need to opt in to see if I can help change this dynamic that has got everybody so divided in this country, and that has brought toxicity to the politics. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
If we've seen anything in the last several years, it is that the two-party system is incredibly unpopular. For as underwater as President Trump, for example, is right now, his approval ratings are in the 30s. He is in the tank, and yet Democrats are even lower. I think our approval rating as a party is something in the neighborhood of 28%. People are hungry for something, anything else, some kind of change. It is my contention that voters, at least at the national level, have been voting for change for going on 20 years now, and still haven't gotten it. And I spoke to a UK author, about a month ago. He put out a book and arguing for a no party system, which I think is a very neat idea. But at the very least, it's very hard to express the range of political opinion in just two parties. If you look at countries that have healthy, thriving democracies now, they all seem to have multi-party systems. Two-party systems are not doing great. His country, the UK, they're on like their 10th prime minister in the last 7 years or something. It's a mess there. It's a mess here. And whatever we agree or disagree on this issue or that issue, I think the vast majority of Americans just want more options. So
Now you're getting it.
Yes, yeah.
Now you're getting it.
So, but you were a Republican for a long time. Did you have a what finally put you over the edge? What was the final?
It's funny
straw?
you say that, because I don't know if James, you know who James Briggs is, the
the Indy
opinion
Star
guy for the Star.
opinion
So he
writer.
wrote an article. He wrote an article about me and said I was the most progressive mayor Indianapolis ever had, which I thought was, holy cow, that's quite the headline, and the article was really good. So. I wouldn't say I jumped off the edge. No, sir, that's not. You have to understand. I look at this differently. The teams are not the Republicans and the Democrats. The team is America. It's Indiana. That's the team. And so I'm not beholden to anybody in that regard. So I frankly I never was. But you and others look to the Democrats to say, I got to make a better America through this team over here. And the Republicans are saying, I got to make America better over here. And I'm suggesting to you that can't be done anymore. I mean, you said it yourself. The Republicans are, I saw the numbers in Indiana. for Republican approval ratings, and it's very low. And so, which begs the question, why are Democrats not running the races? Winning the races, because they're lower in Indiana. As you just mentioned, across the nation also. Their approval ratings are even worse. So, but here's the funny thing. They're in power. They're setting the rules. They are setting the rules. And Wyatt just had to spend $700,000 plus to get on the ballot. You think that's fair? Of course not. It's not even close to fair. You can go to Kentucky, Ohio, and the ballot requirement is like 5,000 or 10,000 or some almost nominal number compared to what I had to do. But they're in power, and they don't want anybody to mess with it. I mean, you saw the nominee winning the Republican convention, and his victory speech said, "We need to close the primaries." So what does that mean? That means he wants 10% of the people to be able to vote within Democrats and Republicans, to vote within their respective clubs, their little exclusive clubs, and the 90% of the people have to pay for it. That's what that is. And it's nothing else.
That is what that is.
And they want us to pay for it, for their exclusive clubs, to get their people in, and they want to maintain their power. Indiana Republicans throughout the state. You got Indianapolis in the northwest corner. Okay, and you want to maintain all of that. Okay, I get it. But you're wrong. This is America, and this is Indiana. This is not Republican and Democrat. And no one can get in there. One in five registered voters can actually run in the state of Indiana. 1 in 5. Holy cow.
That is, based on the requirements that you have voted in your party's last 2 primaries, the primaries as it are, they have very low turnout. So you've already got a very small subset of the population choosing the candidates. Max Engling, the Republican nominee, wants to narrow that even further, as you said. And now the rules, largely in Indiana, have been set by Republicans over the last 20 to 25 years, though, Democrats have their safe spaces where they're little playgrounds where they like to maintain their own sort of control.
So what happened? What happened What happened in May? 10% of the people in Indiana just elected 95% of the legislature. The November elections of no consequence. None.
In very many states, that is true. Yes,
in May. So the main problem, as I told you I was going to get to, there are no competitive elections in November. That's the problem. There are no competitive elections in November. So how are you going to get choice? How are you going to get different views? How are you going to get people working together? Because all this is decided in May at the conventions and at the primaries. That's when all this is decided. It's not decided in November. And so they don't want people like me and others to be messing with their perfect pie. They just don't. And I am. And they don't like it. Neither party.
Yeah. Let's talk about how we're going to achieve that. I mean, now, obviously, getting the Lincoln Party and having ballot access for another party is a very important part of the process. The Libertarians have been out there with 30 years, I think, with ballot access. I think at their high water mark is something like 10% of the vote, which is impressive in its own right, but not really a threat to win an election. But so many of the election laws that would need to change, the Secretary of State can't make those changes. They can advocate for those changes, but a lot of that is going to take the legislature to agree to changing election law in this state. How do you contend with that?
We're going to be putting out a voters' bill of rights, and so we're going to take it from the voters' point of view, and that you have a right for this, and this, and this. You'll see that. One of the things I can do is the voters' guide, which I think we can do within the money, as long as the legislature doesn't take the money away. But within the current budget, we can put out a voters' guide, which lots of states do. And when you go into the booth, you don't know everybody you're voting on, but you should, and we can help do that. But we're going to put out a voters' bill of rights, saying, and yes, do some have to go through the legislature? Yes, but We're trying to tell people that this is a closed system. It's purposely closed to preclude anybody from changing the power structure in the state, not allowing voters to have choices, which they really don't, and that it's all designed so that those two parties stay in power. That's what this is. That's what this is. And the Voters' Bill of Rights will address that. You'll see. I don't want to give away everything right now.
Well,
but the fact
so
is,
you mentioned the voter book, which I
don't
think,
understand.
yeah.
They don't understand that it's like this because they just accept it. They just accept it, and they don't understand. We're going to tell them.
Something needs to change for sure. Indiana is 50th out of 51 jurisdictions, I believe, if you count DC as well, in terms of voter turnout. That is an embarrassment. We should be embarrassed as Hoosiers that we're not participating. But to your point, I mean, so much of that is determined in the primary because we don't typically have competitive elections in November. And, lack of information is a major part of that, I think. You mentioned a voter guide, which I think is a brilliant idea. That is something that my preferred candidate in our Democratic primary advocated for. And she is begging our current nominee to adopt it. It is a common sense thing for voters in any state to want to have. I don't know why any Republican, Democrat, socialist, libertarian, whatever, why you wouldn't want voters to have information about who their candidates are.
It goes to straight ticket voting. They don't want you to know. They don't want you to know. They want you to pull a red or a blue lever. That's it. They don't want you to know. Well, I've already talked to the League of Women Voters about this. They do something, and I want to. I'm not one to create everything from scratch. We've got something we can really build on and put it out throughout the state, but they don't want you to know who's in there. They don't. Come on, you get this. Certainly you understand this.
It's certainly not reinventing the wheel. Like to your point, there are plenty of states, mostly out west, I want to say, that already do this sort of thing. They send this voter guide,
Colorado
however many days before the election to every registered voter in the state. Now, I don't want to know what exactly all in your voter Bill of Rights yet. We'll leave folks to wonder. But I think one of the concerns that we have is that there are far too many hoops for folks to participate in the elections. Indiana led the nation in voter ID, and you can say what you want about voter ID, but it is in its way a poll tax. Where do you come down on voter ID? How, President Trump is pitching this SAVE Act thing, which would make it even more difficult for people to exercise their right to vote. How do you plan to bring more people into the voting process and, make sure the folks that are supposed to vote are voting? And I would be remiss if I didn't mention now that voter fraud, basically not a thing. So go off.
Yeah, there were, I believe, 21 people, non-citizens out of 2.9 million, which I think comes out to like 0.0007% or something like that. So
it's a
really
fraction of a fraction of a fraction. Yes.
And most people don't know that our voting machines are offline. So you can't hack into them; they're offline. So. But I know I'm okay with photo ID. I am. I don't want people to have to go through hoops. The SAVE Act is way beyond the pale. But a photo ID to vote, I think, is just fine. Get your voter registration card, have a photo ID. I think that's fine. I think most people are there, and I kind of agree with that.
Now, and again, I don't think any of us would argue that you shouldn't need a photo ID to vote. But there are folks, typically people of color, rural folks, people of less means, have a hard time getting a photo ID at times. You have to take time out of your day to go to the BMV. Indiana's BMV does a remarkably good job, by the way, so I'm not going to crap on them. They'll get you in and out pretty quickly, but still, you have to go. You have to take time. It does cost money. What about, and again, this is something out there that the state legislature would probably have to do. It's not something the Secretary of State could do. But should we be offering voter ID at no charge at the very least?
I think that might be something to look at, but like I said, I don't have any problem with photo ID. I don't have any problem with that. But if we can look at that at no charge, I think that's fine too. But I want to make it easy, but also you need to make sure that people are who they say they are. I realize there's not much issue with that. I get that. I mean, and I think so much of this is I don't know what the word to use, just over the top. It's just too much. But I think the basic still works, frankly.
Yeah. And, we don't have to belabor the point about some of the details of these. Now, I want to talk about the state of our voter rolls. Now, the current Secretary of State, Diego Morales, who has been unceremoniously shipped off the ballot by his Republican colleagues.
Now, you do know why he's off the ballot, right?
Well, because he was going to lose, because he
had
is
a poll.
Notoriously corrupt and would likely have lost come November. And Yingling is a unknown quantity without all the baggage.
He was going to lose because I'm in the race. He wasn't going to lose in a two-person race. That was not going to happen. He was going to be the nominee in a two-person race. I'm in the race, and they finally found the poll, or conducted their own poll. We already saw a poll that he was going to lose in a three-person race. So that's why he's out of there. And notice that it happened at the last second. If I'm not in this race, I'm guaranteeing you Diego Morales would have been the Republican nominee.
I don't think I could argue with that. I mean, there's certainly that Republican brand loyalty here in Indiana. And, I argue with this. I argue with Democrats about this. And, you don't have to share internal polls or anything. I've only seen the one, and it was back in like March, where you were very competitive in a three-way race with
points of the leader.
with Bai and Morales. I don't know if we've seen any new polls since they swapped out Diego or anything. But who are you taking votes from?
I think both parties were pretty adamant in the beginning to get me out of the race. The Bai folks came at us to, hey, can you please not do this? Please don't do this, like three times or so. And certainly the Republicans don't like me doing this. But to be frank with you, lots of the Republicans know exactly why I'm doing this. I have a lot of good friends, both sides of the aisle. Frankly, when I was the mayor, I worked with both sides of the aisle clearly, and I think I would have won a third term pretty easily in Indianapolis. But Republicans know why I'm doing this, and quietly, lots of the people at the Republican convention, I know they're voting for me. I mean, I know they are, and lots of people are going to do that. And I think that's true of a lot of Democrats too. They won't say it. They won't say it in my ear like the Republicans will, but I know they will, because I had a very good reputation in Central Indiana. Like I say, my numbers when I left the office were in the 70s. The approval ratings were in the 70s, and so I have a good reputation here. And so I think that's why the Bai folks wanted us out of there, because they were afraid I would take a lot of Central Indiana votes away from them. So,
and I actually find that very interesting, because it is my assertion that I don't think a Democrat can win this race without you in it.
I think there's some merit to that argument, but I'm not in here to have one of those guys win. I'm here to win. I'm not, come on. Right? I mean, if you look at my history, when I was in 07, I knew when I started that race, I was 30 to 40 points down, and I knew I was put out there as cannon fodder. I knew that completely. But you never really tell a Marine you can't take that hill. And I just kept going and kept going and kept going. And, he's outspent me 20, 30 to 1. But I just kept going and trying to find a way to break through, and I did. And I think that's what you're going to see here. We'll see what happens. But I'm okay being dismissed. I'm okay being the underdog. I'm very comfortable in that position. But I'm not here to help either one of those guys win. I'm trying to win myself.
Let's talk about plans for the office a little bit. We mentioned the voter guide and the voter voter administration. The voter rolls is kind of how we got on Diego. Now he turned over. President Trump demanded all of the states' unredacted voter rolls near the beginning of his term. Diego Morales was first in line to say, "Here you go." Now, other secretaries of state in other states, mostly Democrats, but some Republicans as well, said, "Hey, hold on. These things are administered at the state level. The federal government doesn't have any business having the state's voter rolls." Would you have turned over our voter rolls to the federal government?
Of course not. That's ludicrous. What they did was terrible. It's a federal government. It's not a national government. National government doesn't tell us what to do. Federal government there are federal rights. There are state rights, and elections belong to the states. It's just the way it is. I'm just, Republicans used to believe in privacy, right? Used to. Again, one of the principles, right? They don't anymore. And they're giving our voter data to the federal government, for God's sake. They're giving our personal data to the federal government. Okay.
It's not very small government. Yeah.
It seems silly to me. And of course, we all know what the federal government can do with sensitive information. It's not all kept under wraps. I mean, there's a reason they wanted that information, right? Come on, let's be clear about this. There's a reason those guys wanted that information, and Diego just handed it over to them.
Yeah, without second thought. Very disappointing, but typical for Diego Morales. But let's talk about some of the other aspects of what the Secretary of State does. It's not just administering elections and voting. You also handle business registration, and it is my understanding. I've used it a little bit. I don't have to interact with the site a whole lot on the business end, but the InBiz website is living in 2001. The campaign finance website is probably living in 1997. They both need updated badly. Do you have plans to update our websites and bring them into the 21st century?
So this is so funny. Early on we made it. I'll say we made a couple of errors. I would suggest you it was something different, because we needed a password to get into the state election system, if you will, and somebody was on vacation or something, and we couldn't get in there. I mean, so we put out a couple days late. It's so antiquated compared to where it should be. It's just silly. And I don't know why it's like that. I have no idea why it's like that at all, but it is. And the business, there's a few things in there. Obviously, registration businesses. I've registered businesses there. It's actually pretty simple to do that, but it helps what the farmers do to help them get their loans, their seasonal loans, to make sure they do their things. Also, that part has to be running well. All of those things matter, but it's the website and the internal workings digitally are just terrible. And I hope that the legislature, after this election, figures that out, because it's been
why
bad.
Is it the way it is? Is it that the legislature has not appropriated funds to do this, or has it just not been a priority of the Secretary of State's office?
That's a really good question. I would suggest that the Secretary of State probably knew that it needed to be updated, and the state legislature, as they go through their budget cycles every 2 years, I just can't do that. I just can't do that. That's probably what it is, but we're gonna make it a priority, obviously, because it's just ludicrous how it is right now, and a lot about Indiana needs to be updated, obviously, but the Secretary of State's website and the inner workings of it, wow, it is amazing. It is amazing. It's just terrible.
Again, living in 1997, I use the campaign finance site a fair amount as someone who researches that sort of thing. It's functional, but it is way more work than it needs to be. It makes me wistful for Netscape, because it very much looks like look like it was made for that sort of thing. That's a throwback. The kids aren't going to get that one.
Yeah, half of your audience doesn't even know what Netscape is.
So, Let's talk about a little bit of our concerns, my
Sure.
concerns
Okay.
as a progressive Democrat. Can I be comfortable with getting on board with somebody who was a Republican until very recently? And let's talk about your time as mayor a little bit. And so
Sure.
as a progressive, as listen, I identify as a socialist, but I definitely am someone who believes that public goods should remain in the public domain. You did spend a fair amount of time, and this has been a bipartisan effort. So I don't want to pin it all on you. Mayor Peterson and Mayor Hogsett have done the same thing, but privatizing public goods. The city's parking meters, the schools we've talked about. That's something we talk about a lot on here. There's these electric car deals. I don't fully understand all that. Listen, I'm a big fan of electric vehicles, but I worry, and this has been my concern with the Democratic nominees, the folks that are his campaign donors are being lined up to benefit from his public service career. Are the folks that donated to your campaigns as a mayor, did they benefit from those privatization deals? Did they do better financially for having donated to your campaign then?
Well, I didn't really have any campaign supporters or donors in '07, so I'm not sure what you're talking about there. There wasn't very much there at all. So the Republican Party, with some exceptions, some rare exceptions, and largely didn't support me going into office in '07. Uh, I got there. I mean, there was some infrastructure there. There were some wonderful people there that helped me out, no question about that. But when you consider the most cash I ever had on hand was 200,000, and my opponent spent 4 million, well, you can see what that was about. So I never. It's kind of funny, but certainly it was different in 11, no question about that. But I'm sure you won't believe this, but I don't. Um, People who know me know this is true. I never looked at who donated how much. I knew who was donating, no question. How much? Didn't really know. I had a sense that probably richer people probably donated more. But when we had deals, no. In fact, there's one prominent gentleman who I'm not going to mention his name. I don't want to get close to his name, but he came to me and said, "You're the first in 11." He said, "You're the first person ever I've donated to a political campaign. Frankly, you know the name." And I said, "Well, God, that's really nice. I appreciate it," because we think people are voting, of course, because we created a level playing field. We were fair in what we did, and so he donated. Then he came to us a year or so later, said, "Hey, can I get a break on this?" And we said, "Well, we don't incentivize retail, so no, no." And that's kind of who we just played it fair. I mean, our numbers, and this is antiquated based on what just happened with the governor. We can talk about that all you want if you want to, but our minority business contracts went up, quadrupled based on
Mm.
previous. Our women, I hesitate to tell you the real number because you won't believe it. I'll just say the lower number. Women contracting went up 10 times. 10 times. So I suggest to you that's probably not the big boys coming into play at that point in time. That's because we had a great guy named Dave Sherman who owned a water company back in the '80s. I mean, I had a nationally known water guy as my first public works director. I mean, oh my God, he saved the ratepayers $1 billion easily, easily. And he was big on minority and women contracting when he owned his business, and that was now my public works director, the first one. So I mean, you can say that, but I mean, I do have different opinions on this because I know that lots of Democrats want everything to be in the public domain. I understand that conceptually. I'm not sure I agree with it because I look at the taxpayer dollar as value for the dollar. And Steve Goldsmith used to have a saying that if you look in the yellow pages, remember the yellow pages? If you look in the yellow pages and there are three companies and they're doing something that the government is doing, maybe you should contract that out because they'll probably do it better. So that was kind of his philosophy. We did a little bit of that. I don't think there's any question about that. I'll give you the parking meter deal. Okay. So you mentioned parking meters.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you two examples if you don't mind. We were running parking meters in the city when I became the mayor. We were netting about $330 a year, $330,000 a year. That's what we were netting. All right. Cities, governments are not innovative by nature. I assume you'd agree with that? I probably was, but by nature, not so much. People look at these things differently. So we're netting, we've got salaries, and we got retirements, and we got insurance, and we got infrastructure. We got all these things to worry about. Netting $330,000 a year. I bid it out. Can somebody do this better? It came out to be primarily minority and women-owned business consortium called ParkIndy.
Mm-hmm.
In 2 years, we're netting $3.5 million. $3.5 million. We went from 330,000 2 years later to $3.5 million. Now, we're the taxpayer, and by the way, higher approval ratings of the parking meters than previously, because you know as well as I do, we all carried around nickels, dimes, and quarters to feed those meters, right? Because no one's doing anything about that. No one was fixing that part of it because the government's not built to do that sort of thing. So we bid it out. We got the best parking meters. You can do it by your phone. You can find the parking spots through your phone. You can do all of these things, and we netted $3.5 million. And I don't have salaries, and I don't have infrastructure costs or insurance costs, and I don't have pension costs and all those things. We just take the money, $3.5 million, and every year. And by law, that money has to go to infrastructure in the area of the parking meters. So I'm suggesting to you, were the taxpayers better served by the first method or by the second method? I suggest the second. So, and I'll give you another example. The Velodrome in Marian. You won't believe this. We paid two ladies $70,000 a year, $35,000 each, to sit in a closed facility. I went and asked them, does this open to the public? This is a world-class facility, the Velodrome. We built it for the National Sports Festival and the Pan Americans. This is an unbelievable facility. It's sitting there closed. And we're paying $70,000 to two people who just keep it closed. And I said, is it open? We open it Monday night to the public. Okay. What a wonderful story, right? So it's on the property of Marian University, which is the best cycling school in the nation. You may not know that. Marian University.
I was not aware of that.
There are no divisions in cycling. There's no Division I, Division II, and there's none of that stuff, right? There's just schools, colleges. Marian University is the best cycling school in the nation, and they're sitting right next to a velodrome that is not open to them. Wow. So we leased it to them for 15 years. And now we have national championships in there. They brought in road races. They built a cyclocross track by themselves, and they have regional, if not national, cyclocross. I mean, it's just now the area is completely active with bicycling in all these in the various forms, rather than that facility sitting there closed all year long. Now, was the taxpayer served by the first one or the second scenario with Marian? I suggest the second one, just like I did with the parking meters. It's taxpayer value for the dollar. That's what it is. It's not just all the dollars going public. It's the taxpayer value and what are they getting out of this. And there are several instances where that really applies. And I suggest to you, in those two instances that I just talked about, the taxpayers was much, much better served than just all public dollars being used.
Fair enough. So I guess I want to talk about transparency. You very much pitching yourself as sort of a transparency candidate here for the Secretary of State's office. There were a couple times when you were mayor where you were maybe accused of not always being totally transparent in some of the dealings with the contractors and whatnot. I understand the Criminal Justice Center was put up for bid, and there were just a few vendors that were maybe selected ahead of time, and the Indiana Public Access Counselor ruled a couple times that you withheld your administration withheld public procurement records. During the Secretary of State's race, there was a little bit of shenanigans around falsified signatures, and I understand when you hire folks to go out and gather signatures, that's a thing that
happens
can happen
with everybody who has to get with everybody. That happens with everybody. We had one guy.
Yeah, okay. And then
we caught it and moved on.
Yeah. And then with the rebuild Indy thing going back to 2011, the engineering firms that were bidding on this project gave a couple $100,000 to your reelection bid, which accounted for a pretty substantial amount of your fundraising, and that was flagged as something to keep an eye on by a political scientist at the time. So I guess I just want to make sure that we're getting a fully transparent individual here if we were to select you as our next Secretary of State.
So that's a really, because in one of the first few months in office, we updated the ethics package for the entire city, and we had lobbyists register, right? And here's another thing we did: we put all the contracts online. Anybody else do that? No. Is it happening now? I have no idea, but I know we did. We put them online so people could see them. So we initiated that. We did that. Wasn't done before. We did that. So you can say what people can say things all they want, which is fine. I get it. It's politics. I kind of get it, but we did that. So I don't know where that's coming from. The engineering firms that we use are pretty much the engineering firms that everybody uses in the city and the state. And so that's just part of it. But I would suggest you go back to the minority and business numbers that I talked about. There are businesses open today. I can tell you two of them right now. I won't mention their names, but a woman-owned business, engineering firm, and a vehicle wholesale supplier, minority business, is open to this day. They thank me every time they see me for that, because we made sure that we used those firms. That's what we did. Those goals that we put in, and by the way, we're the ones who started the veteran firms and the disabled. We started those. Our administration started those goals with veterans and disabled. And the state is now using veteran as about the only thing left, right?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that.
The state didn't use veterans goals until we did veterans goals. And so,
and I don't know if you can speak to this. Is this something that because this is just recent, like in the last week or two, that the state basically rescinded all these diversity goals in business contracting. Right. And you might not be able to speak to it. This is probably something I would ask the Hogshead administration about. Is if the city still maintains these things, if they can be done on a
Right, they're goals. They're goals.
Yeah,
they're not law, they're goals. But we kind of went to those goals. We started lots of those goals, as I just told you. Why the state did that, I have no idea. I had somebody call me a couple of days ago. He said, Greg, what white person was ever harmed by those goals? And I said, none. No one was ever harmed by those people having those goals, and absolutely none. And so I don't know why they did what they did. It's just that it made no sense to me. But I suggest you through Greg Wilson, a wonderful man. He went from my administration, 8 years of my administration, to becoming the executive director of the Civil Rights Commission for quite a few years. I think 7 years, probably, under Holcomb and others. And wonderful man. He's the one that did all this minority and women business for us. And we had outreach and all these things. So I think we were pretty open about all of that. Again, the contracts are online, so I don't know what people were saying about that sort of thing, but it's just kind of, you need to build things. You need to hire people to build things, right? But we made sure that they went to the minority and women and the veteran and the disabled-owned businesses as much as possible, and we were very, very happy with what we did there.
I want to stay on the money thing here a little bit.
Sure.
So again, one of my primary criticisms of the Democratic nominee is where some of his fundraising is coming from, and these are folks that I think Democrats should not be involved with. Now, when looking into the fundraising for the Ballard campaign and the Lincoln Party, so much of it is going through this PAC, Hoosiers for Competitive Elections,
Right.
I think is the name of it. Now, I understand the financing report, the donor report for who's contributing to that won't be available till October.
Right.
So I don't get to come in here and say, hey, Greg, why are you taking donations from such and such person who I find to be offensive? Who is behind Hoosiers for Competitive Election? Where's this money coming from?
This because it's Hoosiers primarily. I would suggest that there might be a few $100s or a couple thousand from somewhere else. I have friends who live in Texas and Arizona, so there might be a couple, a little bit of money there here and there. But it's some people didn't want their name out there at that time. That's real, and they prefer to go in that direction. They know their name's going to be released eventually, which is okay. I mean, it's not nobody's hiding anything in that regard. They just prefer to do it that way for more timing purposes than lots of other reasons. So some people put it into the Greg for Indiana campaign account, which is open immediately, and I think you'll see something here happen on that very shortly too. But it's not. It's kind of standard business. I mean, it's the C4 money is different money, and everybody has it, and the governor has his own. The Republicans have their own. Senator Banks has his own. Everybody has those things going on that you can question whether that's okay or not. But right now it is okay according to the law. So you can say otherwise, but that maybe it shouldn't be that way. And I understand that. But the PAC thing is. Sometimes it's timing that they don't want their name out, but it gets out eventually. It gets out before the election. You'll be able to see completely. But I don't think you'll be. I don't think you'll be disappointed in who donated to me. To be frank with you, I'd be surprised if you were. So
what I'm
because it's really
inferring,
it's kind of people
yeah.
it's kind of people who have supported me in the past. People who thought I did a good job as the mayor and they want to support me. It's Democrats and Republicans. It's both of them. You'll see that, but it's just some of that's timing, and that's all. There's
I
nothing
sort of
nefarious going
infer
on.
from what you're
There's nothing.
saying that it's
There's,
maybe
there's,
traditional Republicans who don't want to draw the ire of their party and let them know that they're maybe supporting you and not their nominee.
that's true of both parties. That's true of both parties. So
I
I
could see
understand that.
that.
That's both parties because the Democrats don't want their name out there yet either.
So let's talk about the Lincoln Party a little bit with what little time
Sure.
we have left
Sure.
here. What is this thing? Is this just a vehicle for Greg Ballard in 2026? What is the long-term vision of the
Yeah.
Lincoln Party? Do you have a platform? What do you all stand for? Where is this thing going? If you do get more than 2% of the vote here in November, then the Lincoln Party has ballot access going forward for whatever candidates want to run as members of said party. How do you vet who those people are? Or how does one declare themselves a member of the Lincoln Party? What are y'all about?
So you're suggesting there will be more voter choices, right? I think you said that in there, right? There'll be more voter choices. So vehicle is a good word for this cycle. It is a vehicle to get us there because I win this race and I want to run again in 4 years. I have to go get 37,000 signatures again. I don't know if you knew that or not, but I'd have to do it again unless you create a party. That's the state law. So you have to create a party unless you have to go get unless you want to go get these signatures again. And so the Lincoln Party was formed for that, to get us so that we don't have to do this. But it's also because afterwards we want other people, independent-minded, practical, problem-solving kind of people, people you'd be proud to have into office, to be able to run for certain offices around the state without having to go through these punitive signature requirements. This is that vehicle for them. And both Democrats and Republicans have already talked to us about what happens after this election. Both Democrats and Republicans in office today, some formerly office holders, want to look at the Lincoln Party as an avenue to get back to serving, because they can't do it within their own party because of the purity test and all the extreme ideology. So we're kind of that vehicle for them also. We're not throwing anybody out there. I mean, that's just not the intent. And we're not going to flood the zone across the state of Indiana. It's going to be certainly early on. It's going to be very selected races, very select people, high quality people that you'd be proud to have in an office. That's what we're going to do. It's not. It's funny. Everybody asks me about the platform. It's kind of funny. The platform is to put practical problem-solving people in office that you'd be proud of. That's the platform. And people can't understand that. They want to put us in the box. They want to put me in the box, right? And I'm going to resist that all I can, because it makes no sense to me. There's a whole different mood out there, not just in the state but across the country, and they're just tired of the parties. Like I say, the split in the country and in the state is not Republicans and Democrats. It's people who are affiliated with the parties and the people who are tired of the parties. That's pretty much the 50-50 split. And the unaffiliated folks love what we're doing right now because they understand it. They understand what we're trying to do. Does that answer the question? Is that okay?
Absolutely. And listen, I'm sure we have plenty of policy disagreements, but I am definitely in favor of having more options out there. And I think, listen, I as a leftist need a home for the centrist Democrats to find themselves in after we take over the party. So listen, I am in favor of you giving them that place to land. I don't want them to be homeless. Okay. So listen, with a couple of minutes left, what's your final pitch, like to the disaffected Republican who thinks that they've gone too far, too extreme MAGA, to a progressive like myself who is maybe distrusting of the Democratic candidate? Why should we vote for Greg Ballard in November?
Look, I understand what the Secretary of State's office is, right? And so I've got a record. This is the funny thing. I'm the only one with a record. I'm the only one who's actually done something. Everybody else is treating this like a entry-level job. I've actually got experience doing big things in my life, not just in the Marine Corps, but obviously as the two-term mayor of Indianapolis. So a Republican in a Democratic city. So I obviously governed for both sides all the time, and I always have. I mean, that's how it is, right? So I govern for everybody. I don't govern for parties. I govern, as I said in my launch video, I'm going to be your Secretary of State. That's the whole point of this, is to get away from the parties, because the parties are toxic right now. And it's just not working for the average person. And we have to do better. And in the Secretary of State's office, this is the perfect place to do it. This is the perfect place to put in somebody I'm not going to endorse anybody. I'm not going to fundraise for anybody. I'm not going to donate to anybody. I'm not going to accept donations for people who are running for office. Once you're in office, this office should be independent. It should be absolutely independent. And I can guarantee you the Democrat and Republican are not going to say that to you if they even talk to you, which I assume both will not. But I'm the only one that's going to be independent in that office. They are not. They are not going to be independent in this office. I am. I'm going to serve the people. That's what I'm built to do. My whole record says that. 23 years in the Marine Corps. You can look at my 8 years as the mayor of Indianapolis. My whole record says that I serve the people, not the parties. So if you actually want to change the system, if you want good people in office, this is your opportunity to do it.
Well, thank you. I really do appreciate you spending your time with us here this evening. Hang tight. I'm going to send you backstage. Sure. I would like to thank you and say goodbye off mic, but I'm going to go ahead and sign off with the people here really quick. Okay. Ballard, thank you so much for joining me here tonight on the Who's Left podcast.
Thank you.
All right, folks. So once again, that was Greg Ballard, the Lincoln Party candidate for Secretary of State. And if you missed any part of tonight's program, it'll be available immediately on Facebook and YouTube. Full show notes and the podcast version will publish first thing in the morning at progressiveindiana.net. You can find all of my work there, as well as that of other left-leaning Hoosier voices. We can't do it without your support, so please consider contributing to Who's Left and the wider network with a paid subscription if you're able. This independent media project relies solely on the generosity of kind patrons like you to make this information available for free to everybody. Again, that's at progressiveindiana.net. We could also really use a follow on social media at Progressive Indiana Network on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel at the same handle, and over on Blue Sky and TikTok, we are at PIN Indiana. I will be back tomorrow night at our usual time with another independent candidate. Sean Steele is running for State House District 65 down in the Bedford area. And of course, Sunday morning, I will be live at 10:30 a.m. with Who's Left This Week, Indiana's only progressive Sunday morning politics show. Thanks again to Mayor Ballard for a great discussion, and thank you for watching. Connect with me online at whosleft.us on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads, at Who's Left on all the rest. Direct message me at any of those sites with feedback, tips, ideas, and concerns, or email me at scott@whosleft. Last thing, please forward the show to a friend and have them pass it on too. Let's keep building this project and a truly democratic state, one conversation at a time. Until the next one, this has been the Who's Left Podcast. I'm Scott Aaron Rogers. Love each other, Indiana.